I, 30M, suspect my pregnant wife, 28F, cheated because the timeline doesn't add up, but confrontation might destroy us. My wife, Kelly, 28F, and I, 30M, have been married for 4 years. We've had our ups and downs like any couple, but overall I thought we were solid. When she first told me she was pregnant, she blurted it out one evening while we were cleaning up after dinner, her voice shaking and a nervous smile on her face. I just stood there in the kitchen holding a wet dish, completely speechless. Honestly, part of me didn't believe it at first. Not that I thought she was lying, but it felt surreal. I even stupidly asked, "Really? Are you sure?" She gave a jittery laugh and said of course she was sure. She'd taken 2 tests and been to the doctor. I think I asked something dumb like how far along, and she said about 6 weeks at that point. I did a bit of mental math and realized 6 weeks back we had been intimate, albeit only once or twice, since I'd been so busy. So I brushed off any niggling doubt. I hugged her and told her I was happy if she was happy. We both cried a little, honestly. It was emotional. We agreed we wouldn't announce it to friends and extended family until around the 12-week mark, just to be safe. For now, only the 2 of us and her doctor knew. But I could tell she was still a bit anxious or on edge. Then we had the first ultrasound appointment about a month ago. The doctor told us Kelly was around 8 weeks along. As I held her hand and looked at the little blob on the screen, I did some quick math in my head and froze. 8 weeks. I mentally counted backward on my fingers. 8 weeks ago, give or take, was late June. My stomach sank because in late June I was out of town for work. Specifically, I spent 2 weeks overseas on a business trip that I couldn't postpone. A trip that unfortunately overlapped perfectly with what appears to be the conception window. I didn't say anything at the appointment, but my mind was racing. On the drive home, I was unnervingly quiet. Kelly noticed and asked if I was okay. I lied and said I was just overwhelmed, which was true, just not for the reason she thought. She squeezed my hand and said she was feeling overwhelmed too, but that we'd get through it together. I forced a smile. That night, I dug out my calendar and went through everything with a fine-tooth comb. Dates, times when we last had sex. I realized something crushing. We hadn't been intimate at all in the 3 weeks leading up to my work trip. I had been swamped, preparing for it, working late and coming home exhausted. She had been busy too, and had just gotten over a bad cold. The last time we'd had sex before my trip was about a month before I left. And due to jet lag and catching up at work, we actually didn't sleep together until about a week after I got back. If the doctor's timeline is correct, the baby was conceived while I was on the other side of the world. I've been trying to find any possible way that my math is wrong. Maybe the ultrasound dating was off? Those early scans are usually pretty accurate. Maybe it happened right after I got back and the dates are just a bit off. Even then, we didn't have sex the instant I returned. I was a jet lag zombie for a few days. I even looked up scenarios like, can conception dates be wrong by a couple weeks? Grasping at straws. As this realization settled in, I felt a mix of betrayal, panic, and weirdly, guilt. Betrayal at the idea that the woman I love might have been with someone else. Panic about what that means for our marriage and the baby on the way. And guilt. Because, what if I'm wrong? What kind of husband doubts his own unborn child's paternity? I haven't confronted Kelly about any of this. In fact, I've been acting like everything is normal. Congratulating her, helping her pick out nursery colors, rubbing her back when she's nauseous. All the while, there's this rotting pit in my stomach. Some days, I manage to convince myself I'm overthinking. She's my wife, for God's sake. She would never cheat on me. We love each other, right? We've had dry spells before, especially when stressed. Just because the timing is uncanny doesn't mean she betrayed me. Maybe the baby really is mine, and one of my little swimmers hung on longer than expected. I read sperm can live up to 5 days, but I was gone way longer than that. Or maybe, I tell myself, the doctor miscalculated by a week or 2. But then I remember other things. Little things I had brushed off but now come back with sinister clarity. Like how, during my trip, it was oddly hard to reach Kelly some nights. We usually text constantly, but on a few evenings she went radio silent. She eventually replied late, claiming she fell asleep early or her phone died. I didn't think much of it then. Why would I? I trusted her completely. Or how she mentioned hanging out with her friend Megan one Friday while I was gone. Later, Megan casually joked that I owe her one for keeping Kelly entertained on that boring Friday night. At the time, I chuckled and thanked her for spending time with my wife. Now, my brain is in overdrive. Did Kelly actually meet up with someone else that night and use Megan as a cover? Megan and I aren't super close. It'd be easy to use her as an alibi. I feel crazy even thinking like this. There's also a coworker of hers, a guy named Tom, who she's mentioned from time to time. They work on the same team. I've never sensed anything overtly inappropriate, but I do recall an office party a few months back where Tom was chatting with her more than anyone else, and they seemed to get along well. Again, nothing that screamed affair, just normal coworker friendliness. I even remember teasing her as we drove home. "Tom's pretty chatty with you, huh?" And she rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, please, he's just a friend." That was well before the pregnancy news. Now my paranoid mind wonders, was I blind? I hate that I'm cataloging every male name I can think of and aligning it with the time I was away. This is my wife. I shouldn't be treating her like a suspect in some crime. Part of me wants to demand answers, to just ask her straight up if the baby is mine. But how do you even say that to your pregnant wife without destroying everything? How do I look her in the eyes, the woman I vowed to trust and stand by, and ask if she cheated on me while I was away? The thought of the hurt on her face, whether from being falsely accused or from being caught, I don't know which, just makes me feel like the worst person on earth. I've been a mess these past few weeks. I even started having nightmares, like waking up in a cold sweat after dreaming that Kelly gives birth to a baby that clearly isn't mine, and in the dream I'm screaming at her while everyone points at me as the fool. I wake up gasping for air. Kelly notices I've been anxious, but she probably chalks it up to normal new dad jitters. I did too, at first. But this is different. I flinch when she mentions anything about the baby's features, wondering if I'll secretly be scrutinizing the kid's face for resemblance when they're born. I feel awful because sometimes she'll put my hand on her belly, she's starting to get a tiny bump, and instead of pure joy or love, I feel this bolt of uncertainty and fear. I quickly mask it, but it's there. I haven't told a soul about this. In fact, we're just hitting that 12-week point when we'd normally start telling people, and I've been subtly dragging my feet on any big announcements. My parents keep asking when they can share the news with relatives, and I keep telling them, not yet. I'm too ashamed to bring up my doubts to anyone in my inner circle. If I voice it, then it becomes real, and if it becomes real and she actually did cheat, my whole life blows up. Conversely, if I voice it and I'm wrong, I will have dragged my wife's name through the mud in front of people for no reason. So I'm stuck in my own head with this, spiraling. At this point, I see only a few possible paths. Confront her now, lay it all out, tell her why I have doubts, and demand the truth. This could lead to a huge fight and unimaginable pain, but maybe also answers. If she confesses to cheating, at least I know, and can figure out next steps, though thinking of that outcome makes me almost throw up. If she's outraged and convincing in her denial, I'm not sure I'd even believe her unless we somehow do a DNA test while she's pregnant, which is possible but expensive, and has ethical concerns. Wait it out quietly. Act normal until the baby is born, and do a paternity test immediately. That way I don't unjustly accuse her if I'm wrong. But that means living with this gnawing doubt for another 6+ months. 6 months of torturous uncertainty, of faking smiles, and maybe getting more attached to a child that might not be mine. And if it turns out not to be mine after I've bonded with them, God, that would shatter me. Something else? I've considered confiding in Kelly's mom or best friend to see if they know anything, but that feels slimy and indirect. If word got back to Kelly, it'd be even worse than confronting her outright. It also feels wrong to involve others in what might just be my own paranoid delusion. No option feels good. Confronting her could destroy our marriage on the spot. She might confess, or she might be so hurt that I doubted her that alone could wreck us. Waiting and saying nothing feels like swallowing poison every day. I find myself analyzing her behavior lately. Has she been acting guilty? Honestly, not obviously. She's been a little moody and tired, but she's pregnant. That tracks. If anything, she's been extra affectionate. She cuddles up to me on the couch, leaves me sweet notes like, "I love you, you're going to be an amazing dad," etc. Sometimes I read those notes and feel like absolute scum for doubting her. Other times I wonder if they're guilt-driven. Last night, as we were getting ready for bed, I was watching her fold some baby clothes someone from her work gave her. She looked so happy and peaceful for a moment, holding up this tiny onesie. And I almost blurted out, "Is it mine?" Right then and there. My heart was thudding, and I think I was physically trembling. I must have had a weird look on my face because she noticed. She asked softly if I was okay. I quickly said, "Yeah, just thinking about how crazy this all is." She smiled and came over to kiss me. I felt like I was on the verge of tears. I don't know how long I can keep this charade up. I'm terrified that confronting her will destroy the trust between us. Trust that is already in tatters on my side, I guess. But I'm also terrified of living a lie. Either my suspicions are the lie, or our marriage is. Every time I see her phone on the counter, I feel the temptation to snoop, something I've never done in our entire relationship. I haven't cracked, yet. Part of me is scared I'll find something, Part of me is scared I won't find anything. And then I'm truly a horrible husband for digging. This morning I almost did it. She was in the shower and her phone was right there. I picked it up. We know each other's passcodes. We never had anything to hide. My thumb hovered over her messages, but I just couldn't do it. If I'm going to do something that could irrevocably break our trust, I might as well just talk to her instead, right? I feel like I'm losing my mind and my marriage is hanging by a thread and my wife has no idea. She senses something's off with me, I'm sure, but she probably assumes it's normal pre-baby jitters or work stress. I've had to fake a lot of busy at work to explain my distractedness. I know I have to address this. I can't live like this, and it's only going to get worse the further along we get. But I'm petrified. I'm about to potentially nuke my entire life based on a gut feeling and some circumstantial evidence like a calendar and some missed calls. What if I'm wrong? How do I ever repair the damage of accusing her of having another man's baby? On the other hand, if I'm right, oh man, if I'm right, what then? Divorce, obviously. But my whole world will crumble. The woman I love will have betrayed me in the deepest way, and I'll have to watch her carry and give birth to a daily reminder of that betrayal. I don't know how I'd cope. I keep coming back to that damn timeline. No matter how much I try to rationalize or deny it, the numbers stare me in the face, cold and hard. Something is wrong here. I can feel it in my bones. I think I've reached my breaking point. One way or another, I need the truth. Living in suspense might actually be worse than knowing, even if knowing will hurt more than anything I've ever felt. After I finish writing this, which, by the way, I'm doing as a way to gather my thoughts and courage, I'm going to go find my wife and have the hardest conversation of my life. I'm going to ask her, flat out, if she was with someone else when I was gone. I'm going to tell her I have doubts about the baby. I can't believe those words are going to come out of my mouth, but they need to. Maybe I'll post an update with how it goes, or maybe I won't, depending on the outcome. I'm bracing myself for whatever comes next, even if it destroys us. I just can't live like this anymore. Update 1, I just confronted my wife, and it was, in a word, devastating. I'm still in shock and shaking as I write this. Last night I gathered every ounce of courage and told Kelly we needed to talk. We were sitting in the living room, and I'm sure I looked as sick as I felt. My voice was shaking. I said, I need to ask you something important. Her expression shifted to concern, and she said, Okay, what is it? I almost lost my nerve right then. I was sweating. My heart felt like it was going to explode. But I knew if I backed out, I'd never go through with it. So I just forced the words out. Is there any chance the baby isn't mine? As soon as I said it, her face went through a wild mix of emotions. Shock, confusion, hurt, then absolute fury. She jumped up and started yelling, demanding how I could accuse her of something so horrible. She sobbed that I should trust her and insisted over and over that I am the baby's father. I was crying too, telling her the timeline just didn't make sense and begging her to tell me the truth. She kept insisting I was wrong and that I was cruel for even asking, but I could see a genuine fear in her eyes behind the anger. I pressed on, voice trembling, asking if she had been with someone else while I was away. She broke down, still denying it at first, until finally she snapped and screamed, Because I don't know, okay? I don't know who the father is. She immediately burst into tears, trying to take it back, but it was too late. I quietly asked, Did you cheat on me? She finally dropped her head and nodded yes. I thought I was going to vomit. Somehow I managed to ask, Who was it? When did this happen? She eventually choked out an explanation. One night while I was on that work trip, she and Tom, the co-worker, went out for drinks after work. One thing led to another, and she slept with him. She said it happened only once, and that she regretted it instantly. She kept saying she was sorry, trying to touch me, but I couldn't even look at her. Through ugly sobs, she told me she never intended for any of this to happen. She claimed she was lonely and angry that I'd left on the trip after we'd argued, and in a moment of horrible judgment, she messed up. She also said, Tom has no idea she's pregnant. I was silent. My silence seemed to scare her more than any yelling would. She kept saying, I'm so sorry, reaching out to me, and then recoiling when I'd flinch away. In that moment, I felt like our entire history, all 8 years together, was just shattered. After what felt like an eternity, I told her I need space and she had to leave the house. She was shocked and begged me not to send her away, especially while she's pregnant. She pleaded that she needs me and that we could get through this. That made me angry. How could she expect me to comfort her and play happy husband after what she did? I told her I can't look at her right now and that she should stay at her mom's for a while. After a lot more crying, she finally agreed. She packed a bag and drove to her parents' house late last night. Her mom knew something was very wrong from the hysteria, and I'm sure by now she knows the basics of what happened. So, yeah, my wife cheated on me, and this baby might not be mine. She admitted it. It's all out in the open now, and somehow knowing the ugly truth hurts even worse than the uncertainty did. Now I'm alone in our quiet house, surrounded by half-finished nursery decorations, feeling completely numb. I have no idea what comes next for us. Part of me wants to disappear. Part of me wants to scream until I have no voice. Mostly I just feel hollow. I'll update again when I can. But right now, I need to somehow process the fact that the life I thought I had is gone. I wouldn't wish this pain on anyone. To be continued. Update 2. Final. It's been about 2 months since everything came crashing down. I wish I had some uplifting news, but the reality is just as painful and messy as you'd expect. First things first. We did a paternity test. It took a few agonizing weeks. We opted for a non-invasive prenatal test using her blood and my DNA. The results confirmed what, deep down, I already knew. I am not the father of this baby. Seeing that in black and white still hit me like a truck. In the aftermath of the confrontation, I moved out of our house. For the first couple weeks, I crashed on a friend's couch because I couldn't bear to be in our home, surrounded by baby stuff and memories. Eventually, I got a short-term apartment. Kelly stayed with her parents. We have been effectively separated since that night. Our communication has been minimal, basically only about paperwork or logistics. I told her I needed space, and I meant it. Kelly has tried reaching out more times than I can count. Long emotional texts, voicemails, even a handwritten letter, all apologizing and begging me to reconsider. She says she's deeply ashamed, that she'll do anything to fix this. But how do you fix the unfixable? I haven't responded to most of it. I did agree to meet her once, about a month after everything, at her mother's urging. It was heartbreaking. She looked miserable. She'd lost weight, eyes swollen from crying. She pleaded with me through tears to forgive her, suggested couples therapy, promised that we could still raise the baby together, and that she'd spend the rest of her life making it up to me. I had to look her in the eyes and tell her that our marriage is over, that I will never trust her again, and without trust we have nothing. She broke down completely, sobbing that she can't imagine life without me. Honestly, a part of me wanted to comfort her so badly. I still love the woman, or at least who I thought she was, but I held firm. I can't do this. I told her I wish her and the baby the best, but I'm not going to be part of this. As for the baby, another heartbreak. I have completely stepped back from any dad-to-be role. We quietly agreed that I will not be on the birth certificate, and I won't have any responsibility once the baby is born. She intends to tell everyone when the time comes that the father is someone else. I guess that's true. It's all so surreal. Only a few close people know the full truth right now. I'd be lying if I said I'm not grieving. I'm grieving hard. I wasn't even sure I wanted kids yet, but when I thought I was going to be a dad, I got attached to the idea. I started dreaming about it. Now that dream has been snatched away in the cruelest way possible. It feels like a double betrayal, losing my wife and the baby I thought was mine. Legally, we've started the divorce process. Because of the pregnancy, it's a bit tricky. I have to formally state and prove that I'm not the father to avoid any parental responsibilities. My lawyer had me use the test results and a notarized statement from Kelly to establish that. It's a nightmare, but at least it's moving forward. We opted for an uncontested divorce to get it over with quicker. If all goes well, it should be done before the baby is born this winter. The house is being sold. We can't bear to live there or deal with it, and frankly neither of us can afford it alone now. Walking through it one last time, seeing that partially painted nursery and the furniture we picked out together, that broke me all over again. Emotionally, I'm taking it day by day. Some days, I feel almost okay, like I might be able to see a future beyond this. Other days, I'm a wreck. Angry, sad, you name it. I started therapy, and it's helping me process the betrayal and my own self-doubt. My family and friends have been amazing. Even her parents reached out to me to say how sorry they are for their daughter's actions. They're pretty furious with her, to be honest. I imagine their relationship is strained right now, too. And what about Tom? Well, I haven't spoken to him and I don't plan to. From what I know, Kelly informed him that the baby is likely his. Apparently he didn't take it well. He's single but wasn't exactly chomping at the bit to become a dad. He's kept his distance from her since. I have no idea if he'll step up for the child. Selfishly, I hope he at least takes some responsibility. It's the least he can do. But I also know it's not my problem anymore. I did hear that he requested a transfer to a different office location of their company, essentially trying to skip town on this whole mess. Figures. As for Kelly and me, we've had virtually no contact besides divorce stuff. The last time we spoke, I told her I wish her a healthy pregnancy and that I hope she can find some way to move forward, but I will not be part of her or the baby's life. It was a brutally painful sentence to utter. She just cried and said she understood. So that's where things stand. In a few months, she'll give birth to a child that isn't mine, and I'll sign my divorce papers around the same time. It's a harsh ending to what was once a beautiful chapter in my life.